In a quiet corner of the world, passed down through generations in hushed voices, is a haunting tale of a strange rain one, not of water or thunder, but of stone. According to legend, it began on a day like any other. The skies were calm, the villagers went about their lives, children laughed, merchants shouted across dusty roads, and elders sat in the shade telling stories of gods and omens. But as the afternoon sun faded behind an ominous cluster of clouds, something shifted. Birds fled in silence. The wind died. A chill crept into the air, unnatural and still, without warning, the heavens split open. Not with a storm, but with a strange, silvery mist that descended quietly at first light, almost beautiful. The villagers looked up in awe. Then came the first scream. What rained down next was not water, but dust like ash and fragments that shimmered like glass. Where it touched, skin blistered, eyes burned, and before they could flee or cry out for the gods to save them, many were frozen in place. Not by fear, but by something far worse. Skin stiffened, limbs locked. Some dropped to the ground like statues mid-movement, their expressions twisted in terror. Others clutched loved ones, turned to stone while still alive, their last moments, captured in a cruel, eternal freeze. The survivors, if they could be called, that spoke of people being turned to stone in the very streets. Statues that once were mothers and fathers, children and farmers. Entire households encased in a solid crust, impossible to move, impossible to understand. This was no normal storm. It was a curse, a divine punishment, a wrathful cry from the heavens. At least, that's what the village priest said. Others whispered that it was something older than gods. A rift in the sky? A star falling too close. The time passed, but the story remained. The stone rain became a cautionary tale. A sacred myth. The area was abandoned, feared, marked on maps only as cursed land. But the tale persisted through scrolls, oral traditions, and strange drawings on cave walls that showed human-like figures stiffened. Beside falling streaks from the sky, what's terrifying isn't just the myth, but the disturbing fragments of truth within it. In remote places, archaeologists have uncovered entire human forms buried in strange layers of rock, eerily well preserved, as if frozen mid-sentence, mid-step. Locals believe these are the stone rain victims. Scientists call them fossilized remains. But when legends and physical evidence meet halfway, the lines between folklore and forgotten history begin to blur. Could such a thing truly happen? Could something fall from the sky so suddenly, so powerfully, that it petrifies life where it stands? Was this divine judgment or a misunderstood disaster from the stars? As the legend goes, the rain didn't just end lives, it erased them from memory. Until now, this story, long buried in shadow, is being told again. And what you're about to discover might just change everything you thought you knew about myth, stone, and the sky itself. For centuries, the legend of the rain that turned people to stone remained just that, a legend. But in recent years, discoveries across various corners of the world have started to challenge that assumption. In certain remote regions particularly, in areas tied closely to the myths like South America, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, archaeologists began uncovering something that sent shivers through even the most skeptical minds: human-like figures, perfectly frozen and lifelike, poses encased in hardened material resembling stone. Not carved, not sculpted, but eerily natural, as if something or someone had been stopped in time. In one such case, researchers in a high-altitude desert uncovered the remains of what appeared to be an entire family group: 2 adults, 1 child, caught in what looked like a moment of panic. Their bodies were positioned as if fleeing from something, their faces contorted in expressions of shock. What puzzled the team was how perfectly preserved the outlines were. Almost like molds, as if something had rapidly covered and solidified around them before decomposition could begin. It wasn't just the shapes that disturbed the scientists. Was the speed? Something had happened instantly. No slow burial, no ritual mummification. It was sudden, violent, and final. Elsewhere, In the dense jungles of Central America, explorers found ancient stone figures hidden beneath overgrowth, half buried in moss and vines. At first glance, they were believed to be statues left by a long-lost civilization. But further study revealed no tool marks, no signs of human carving. Instead, these forms had anatomical accuracy far too perfect for the primitive sculpting tools of the era. Some researchers dared to suggest that these might not be statues at all. They might be victims somehow petrified, flash fossilized, locked into mineral casing by a force unknown to science. Locals in these areas often avoid these spots, whispering of cursed lands and angry gods. Some refuse to go near even today, fearing that the stone rain might return. And while that might sound like superstition, the uncanny nature of these discoveries gives even the most rational observers pause. Could it be that the ancients weren't merely telling stories, but documenting something real? Something they saw, survived, or barely escaped? One theory suggests a sudden blast of superheated volcanic ash, capable of carbonizing bodies almost instantly, similar to what happened in Pompeii. Another proposes a rare type of meteorite impact that could produce a shockwave and heat strong, enough to petrify organisms in seconds. But even these explanations don't fully account for the eerie preservation or the specific locations tied to the myths. What makes this mystery even more fascinating is the pattern. These stone figures are often found in regions where legends of divine punishment or skyfire exist. It's as if the ancient world tried to warn us, using stories to encode memory into myth, but we didn't listen, until now. The question is no longer whether the rain that turned people to stone is real, it's whether we're ready to understand the truth behind it. For centuries, people believed the story of the stone rain was just a warning from the past, a terrifying myth passed down through generations. But as science advanced and strange discoveries began to align with ancient tales, experts started looking deeper. What if this wasn't divine wrath or mere superstition? What if the explanation was not mystical but cosmic? Enter the meteor theory, a chilling possibility that connects ancient destruction with events beyond our atmosphere. Imagine a blazing object tearing through the sky, faster than sound, hotter than fire, and heavier than anything we can comprehend. A meteor, larger than a house, crashing into Earth's surface with the force of multiple nuclear bombs. Now imagine it hitting not in the ocean or an uninhabited plain, but in the middle of a thriving ancient settlement. The shockwave alone could flatten buildings. The heat could scorch everything within miles, and the dust, ash, and chemicals it throws into the air could create the illusion of rain. A rain so toxic, so hot, so unnatural, it could literally harden flesh in an instant. Could this be the true origin of the stone rain? One of the most compelling real-world comparisons is the Tunguska event of 1908 in Siberia. A meteor exploded above the Earth's surface, releasing a force 1,000 times stronger than the Hiroshima bomb. Trees were flattened in a 2,000 square kilometer radius. Animals disintegrated. The skies turned red across Europe. There were no human settlements at ground zero, but what if there had been? Would people have survived to tell the story? Or would we have found their bodies frozen mid-step, encased in ash, turned to stone? Scientists have also studied impact sites that date back thousands of years, some of which align eerily with regions where petrification myths exist. One theory suggests that certain types of meteorites contain high levels of iridium and other rare elements which, upon impact, vaporize into the air and mix with ground elements to form chemical compounds. These compounds, when inhaled or absorbed through the skin, could induce rapid calcification or, at the very least, preserve bodies in a way never seen before. There's also the idea of volcanic, meteoric hybrid disasters. What if an impact triggered a nearby volcano or hit an already unstable volcanic region? The mix of extreme heat, poisonous gases, and volcanic ash could mimic the effect of a literal stone rain raining not just dust, but solidifying matter. Imagine being caught in that. You wouldn't just die, you'd be frozen in your final breath, your last scream locked in stone, and yet the most haunting part is this. The ancients might have witnessed it all. They didn't have the language to describe meteors or atmospheric shockwaves. So they called it what they understood: divine punishment, skyfire, cursed rain. Their stories weren't fiction. They were memory. Etched in legend, buried in myth, but grounded in terrifying reality. So now the question isn't whether a meteor could turn people to stone. It's how many times has it already happened? And did we miss the warning signs? As the dust of ancient legends begins to settle, and science shines its cold, probing light into the shadows of myth, we are left standing at a strange crossroads. One path leads us deeper into the comforting clarity of facts, equations, and rationality. The other veers into mystery, into the realm where ancient voices still whisper through stone, and forgotten tragedies remain buried beneath layers of earth, ash, and time. The truth about the rain that turned people to stone may lie somewhere in between. A forgotten disaster, preserved not just in rock, but in memory encoded into the myths of our ancestors, waiting for us to finally listen. Could a meteor really have fallen thousands of years ago and turned people to stone? Could volcanic eruptions, flash fossilization, or even unknown natural phenomena have left behind trails of evidence that we've long mistaken for art, sculpture, or divine punishment? The patterns are impossible to ignore. The similarities between cultures oceans apart, the myths of skyfire, gods angry with humanity, rain that brings death and silence, these aren't coincidences. They're breadcrumbs. Clues left for us by civilizations who had no other way to make sense of what they saw. They etched it into walls, sang it into songs, and passed it from mouth to mouth across generations. And now, with satellites, science, and archaeology, we're finally able to see what they were trying to say. Maybe they weren't writing fables, they were giving us warnings, not just about the past, but the future. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: meteors haven't stopped falling. Volcanic systems haven't gone silent. The Earth is still vulnerable to the same cosmic forces it always has been. And if it happened once, it could happen again. The only difference now is that we have the tools and the responsibility to recognize the signs and prepare. Or what if we ignore them? Again, what if we continue brushing off ancient stories as just stories? What if the next time the sky tears open, we're too late to act? The terrifying part is that we've always been one stone's throw away from another dark chapter in human history. And perhaps the ancients knew this. Perhaps they didn't just want us to remember, they needed us to. So, as you sit with this tale, ask yourself, how many legends are actually warnings disguised as wonder? How many stories hold secrets too terrifying to be told plainly? And most importantly, what else have we missed? If this story made you think differently about ancient myths, if it gave you chills or sparked your curiosity, don't let it stop here. Help us keep these stories alive. Hit that like button if you found this fascinating. Subscribe so you don't miss the next hidden truth from our ancient world. And share this video with someone who still believes that myths are just bedtime stories, because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are real.